We got a 2020 Dodge Ram here. It's the 3.6 Pentastar motor. We really like these engines here at the shop because, well, they make us a lot of money because they're always broken. But this one actually has a transmission issue, not an engine issue. So customer complaint is check engine lights on, and it's got a rough shift into third only when the engine and everything is cold. He did already take it to another shop, and it was a big brand shop, you know, one of the typical service centers that you'd find in any town. And we'll hide the name. We're not trying to catch a defamation suit, but they're saying, well, they charged him $140 for a diagnostic, which appears as though they scanned the code. They're saying PO733, gear 3 shift incorrect ratio. And then they said remove and replace transmission. $7,800 plus tax. So apparently they're, you know, $150 a diag doesn't get you very far anymore nowadays. So we've been getting a lot of these recently from these big shops locally. I don't know if it's just because holidays are coming up or whatever, but a lot of weird diag stuff that doesn't actually wind up being the case, or they're trying to rip people off. I don't know what's going on. It just must be in the air right now, but I think this is what, like the maybe 4th or 5th one in just this month. So we're going to go ahead and look over everything on this and verify that that's actually what it needs. And if it does need a transmission, it's going to probably still be significantly cheaper than taking it to that other shop. So we're going to go ahead and get started on the diag on this thing. So we got our trusty scanner hooked up here. We're trying to keep the glare away from the screen so you guys can see what's going on. We're going to go ahead and select Chrysler. It's probably going to kick us through the authentication gateway stuff to get in there so that we can actually read the codes and look at some data. What I'm going to try to do is get into the parameters for the transmission. Well, we're going to double check the code first. And then I want to get into the parameters for the transmission. I want to see if we can graph some of the shift patterns and stuff in there. Hopefully the engine's cold enough now at this point that we can actually get it to replicate the issue. And here we go. We're getting through the security gateway. Don't look at any of that. No, I'm just kidding. I don't think it matters. Oh, shit. We got to hook up to Wi-Fi. Sorry, guys. We got to get the scanner closer to the Wi-Fi. Yeah, I don't know where the Wi-Fi cuts out between there and there, but all right, we're through the gateway. So we should be able to do everything now without the Wi-Fi. All right, so we're through the gateway. We're going to go ahead and just get into the TCM. Oh no, does it need to get in the gateway again? All right, we're going to move the truck over the somewhere between over there and the truck, we lose Wi-Fi signal. It's like roughly about where the AC unit is from what I've gathered. But the scan tool can't go through and scan all the modules because it can't get past the individual gateways as it's going through the code scan without the Wi-Fi signal. So I went to start the truck to move it over closer to the entrance of the building, and the battery was pretty much dead. Put the multimeter on it, we're at 10 volts. So that's a whole nother issue, which could be causing some other problems as well. I did see that we got past a couple when we were doing the first scan, and there was already like instrument panel cluster codes and a couple other things. So that might be worth looking into. We'll see if there's maybe some, you know, weird CAN network stuff going on. Don't know if anything communicates through the TCM with any of that, but could be worthwhile looking down that rabbit hole a little bit, but we'll see. Either way, I'm going to sell this man a battery because he's going to get stuck somewhere if he doesn't put a new one in it soon. Can you go ahead and start it up in there? Well, we're charging at 14.4. There is some corrosion on the terminal there. Yeah, not enough to cause any voltage drop on the ground. Check between the engine and I guess I need to be able to see my multimeter, huh? Oh, well, check ripple on the alternator real quick. I know we probably don't need to do any of this, but it takes just a couple minutes to run these tests. So we're gonna go ahead and move this over to where the internet can reach it. That's interesting. We're getting a service shifter light on the dash, which here's the thing. I did mention that these Pentastars are notorious for engine issues. You name it, they got it. Porous cracks in the cylinder walls, eating up the cams and the lifters failing, the notorious oil cooler leaks that cause either overheating or mixing engine oil and coolant together, or the oil leaking out and then failure because of that. But they are also notorious for transmission issues. This one has 64,000 miles on it. And it wouldn't be the lowest mileage one that I've seen get a new transmission. So there is that. Any of the other ones that I've seen that need a transmission, they also have that service shifter light on. So just clues. I have also seen that service shift light have issues to do with the auxiliary battery. I don't know if this one has one. I know on like the front wheel drive ones and like the Pacificas and stuff, well, they also have the Pentastars. Those have an aux battery, which can sometimes cause the issues with that. Sometimes you'll get it like kind of zoomed in on an issue and you'll kind of get too hyper focused on it. I like to stay zoomed out until I've got more clues that are telling me that I need to. What the fuck? And what's the VIN? All right. Third attempt's the charm, right? I'm going to go ahead and try to do this all system code scan. Yeah, see, we're getting a bunch of faults all in modules that look like they're CAN related, which probably are relating to that battery. If I were a betting man, I'd say that we're going to get a bunch of, it's going to say CAN communication low or voltage low in all of these ones. All right, we have 9 modules that have codes. So TCM, system voltage low, pending, and that gear ratio fault in third. Instrument cluster, system voltage below allowable range. TPMS, voltage signal below threshold, and a low tire pressure. So it probably does actually have low tire pressure. System circuit voltage low. Oh, electronic shifter control module's got some stuff in here. That's interesting. So a P0607 ECU internal performance and a BTSI control. And then these two are circuit below voltage. That one just says, please refer to manual. Love that. Low voltage, and missing calibration, and low voltage. Okay, so that gives us a lot of clues. We're going to go ahead and focus in on some of this transmission stuff. I want to write down for the gear fault. Let's take a picture of that. And then these shifter ones. And the cool thing is, like we were talking about in the other video with this tablet, is it's all unlocked. So it's not just like you have your scan, app or whatever, and then you can't really get into any other stuff. So you can get in and I can tab over to the internet, and I've already got the truck entered in here, and I'm on all data, and I can look at my fault code charts without having to go back into the shop. So I can just sit out here and enjoy the nice weather. I always like to look at the manufacturer data on the codes before I start. It only takes a minute or two to read something. And if this can point me in a direction or give me some clues without me having to really do anything except read, then it's always helpful, you know? Yeah, so we do have, and see, look, looking at this just gives me a little bit of clues, right? When we were outside looking at the truck before, I was saying, hey, the voltage of the battery being so low, because we were looking at 9.8 or whatever, it was like less than 10 volts. CAN network stuff is very temperamental to voltage. So we're seeing the voltage low on the battery, we're getting all these codes and all these modules, and right here in our monitoring and set conditions, we're seeing that there is chatter between the TCM and the CAN network stuff. So voltage being off in there could potentially influence some of the stuff that's going on, because we're getting engine speed signals via CAN. I have seen before where on the transmission you'll have like the little Hall effects or like magnet sensors that are essentially reading input output speeds on the transmission, and if the voltages that it's giving the computer and stuff are a little temperamental or inaccurate, that is going to affect how the vehicle shifts. So that gives us a clue maybe. I'm going to try not to narrow in too much right away, right? Because it's too common or it's too easy to go into this code and look at this, and it just says, it has a little chart right here, probable causes, and it's saying clutches in the transmission, either B, C, or E, or TCM, which a lot of times on these now, the TCM is inside the transmission. So, maybe if you're a tech at a, whatever, just one of the turn and burn type, service center places, you're going to look at that, you're going to be like, everything's in the transmission, it needs a transmission. But in my mind, all the clues so far and everything that we're looking at is telling me that before I want to start, going down the rabbit hole of any of that stuff, I want to make sure that the battery is good. We got step one is to erase the DTC. So it wants to erase the code, and it essentially wants you to go drive it and then check the transmission fluid level. All right, so that gave us a couple clues. That gave us some insight. The only other thing I want to check before I make sure that there's not an auxiliary battery and we have to get two batteries for the truck is I want to look at that other code for the BTSI control and the ECU internal performance. Right away, right, this internal performance one that was stored in the shifter module. And again, I take this as a grain of salt, but first probable cause, battery voltage supply issue. So this is essentially telling you to check all the wires going to the electronic shift module, which tells me one thing, which is that it's temperamental to voltage. Obviously, a wiring fault, yes, can cause an issue as well, but making sure that all of our clues are congruent with that. So let's see if this one has two batteries. Yeah, so it's looking like this one's just got one battery, not accessory battery. So honestly, I'm going to call a customer. We're going to start with the battery. Put that in, clear the codes, go take it for a drive, see if we can get it to replicate. We'll watch the data and stuff, and make sure that, we can get into that. I guess I should peek back over at the TCM and make sure that we can get into what kind of parameters we have for the live data. I wanted to show you guys, we didn't get it recording fast enough, but I'm in the TCM live data right now with the truck off, and we have a live readout of battery voltage at 8.9 volts. But before we hit record on it, it was actually teetering, and it actually went as low as 1.4 volts on this. I wonder if we can actually, will it give us a graph? Yeah, look, see it down there where it just completely dropped? And it actually did it twice. Oops. It actually did it twice. You could see it back there, where we had to drop down to 1 volt of battery, which that's not good. So it looks like we also have a lot of parameters in here for each individual clutch in the transmission, which will be good for when we do our drive test. And right now we're at engine coolant temp of 140. So that's a bit above ambient. The customer is complaining that this only happens when it's cold. So us waiting for a battery to show up and stuff will be good because it sits for a little while longer, cool down a little bit more. So we're probably closer to conditions where the issue is going to occur. All right, so we got the battery swapped out. One thing we noticed already right off the bat is it wasn't doing that before. So that's interesting. But we've got all our codes pulled up again. I'm gonna go ahead and just clear it all. Oh no, I have to input the security gateway. Hold on. We'll be back momentarily, folks. So we went ahead and tried to clear all the codes, and it cleared almost everything except it keeps not automatically resetting, but it won't clear the codes from the transmission control module or the ABS module. So we're going to go ahead and drive it now that the, let's see what the engine temp is at. It should be pretty much completely cold at this point, 113 degrees. It's close enough. Well, it's definitely something going on. It's interesting. So it shifts fine at a higher throttle percentage, but just cruising around it gets really erratic. Yeah, the thing that's weird though too is it's throwing the code for third gear, but it's definitely having faults in other gears as well. You hear that every time you put it in reverse? Mm-hmm. It kind of sounds like coming from the diff.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. It sounds like it's clunking back in the diff.
Pretty sure the pan's just wet because they checked the fluid level. I think the level fill is on the side right here. And it looks like someone just pulled the plug and fucking cleaned it up. All right, put it in park. Reverse. Park. Reverse.
No random click into drive. And he said it was third gear that it had the biggest click in.
Yeah.
So he's hearing an actual click.
Well, no, it's like a hard shift, yeah.
Got it. So we're in third.
That was third?
Yeah.
Okay. That didn't notice anything.
Yeah, that's current gear.
Okay.
Now that all also was when the vehicle was cold. It's probably warm now, right?
That's true. It is up to temp.
So has he had fluids changed at all?
No.
Okay.
He went to go have the fluids changed because of the shift,
Got it.
and that's when they told him that he needed a transmission.
Okay, but they didn't change the fluid and then he had the problem.
No.
Got it.
Yeah, so we might have to wait for it to cool down. Because, I mean, right now, it's fine.
All right, well, here we are next morning. Got this thing started up. I have not tried to put it in gear yet. We did find that the rear diff fluid was about a quart low, so the diff might be destroyed. Yeah, we do have a little clunk back there, not nearly as bad as it was yesterday. We did go ahead and top off the diff, so hopefully that helps a little bit, but I don't know how long he drove it a quart low, so that's not good. Try not to run into anything. We were able to get the codes to clear yesterday. We had to go in there and actually had to reset the TCM and reset all the adaptive values in the transmission. I have seen sometimes where when transmission code's set like that, essentially the computer learns all these values for the shift solenoids and stuff that make it drive like crap as long as those codes are there. So I just made sure I went in and reset everything so that it's all fresh and it can relearn some new values now that the voltages are correct, and we'll see if it fixes it. Oh, that's not good. Yeah. So far, so not good. Yeah, and so here's the thing about this, right? You know, it's one thing to just pull a code and be like, oh, fluid level's good, the code's set, so the transmission's destroyed, sorry, have a nice day. Had to do some due diligence here. Yeah, there we go, we got our check engine light back. Unfortunately, things not looking too good for this one. Oh, wow. Yeah, it doesn't even want to shift out of third. Look at that. Womp womp. So yeah, we want to do our due diligence here. We want to make sure that it's not something silly, right? The truck needed a battery anyway. So we're going to go ahead and, you know, we swap that out, right? But we want to try to stick with the simple fix first before we go all the way into replacing a transmission. We did already price out worst case scenario if this was how the test drive went this morning. And honestly, I think we were able to beat that other shop's quote by almost half. So I don't know what they were quoting him. There's no details on the invoice at all. Yeah, this thing doesn't want to even shift out of third gear. It's just been stuck in third since it engaged. Wow. Yep. This poor guy. But so is the way of the Pentastar. I have seen trucks this generation with less mileage getting new transmissions. So word from the wise, if you're looking for a pickup truck, would not recommend a Chrysler product. Even the Hemis in these are bad. They're notorious for chewing up the cams and the lifters failing. I mean, they're a slight bit better than the Pentastar, but I mean, when you got issues like that and stuff happening, it kind of calls into question like a lot of other things, right? Like, what else did they mess up with when they were engineering or designing that vehicle, right? I'd rather just get something that doesn't have issues like that. So we're gonna bring this one back to the shop. Hopefully it makes it, and we're only maybe a couple 100 feet away. And I'm gonna call this guy and let him know that unfortunately he needs a transmission. I'm curious to drop the pan on this one and see what all is in there. The other shop he took it to just checked the fluid level. They didn't drop the pan or anything to inspect any further because, of course, you know, they were just, you know, oh, it's got this code. Oh, the fluid level's full. You need a transmission. They were right. I'll give them credit. They were right. But, you know, we don't want to overlook possible simple fixes, especially if it's a part that the truck already needed. You know, that battery was, from the looks of things, the original battery at 4 years old. Batteries don't last very long out here. So I was honestly kind of surprised that he got 4 years out of it. And yeah, so we got that swapped out, but unfortunately there is other issues at play here. And it's gonna be a pricey one. Poor guy. But if we wind up dropping the pan, we'll make sure that we include that in the video. If not, if we just wind up just throwing the tranny at it, then we'll update you guys when it's all said and done.